Janelle Liverman with Free to Be Healing Therapies, and I'm creating a video just to explain what Tibetan Cranial is, the main service that I offer for Wilmington, North Carolina area. So I came all the way back to Colorado, where I'm from and where I learned Tibetan Cranial, to complete my third advanced training with my teacher, Master lineage holder Shar Lee. And I felt it was a good time to do this video right after the training. So thank you for being here. So many people have never heard of Tibetan Cranial, so I thought I would use this time so you can get to know me a little bit and get to know what the work is, to see if it may work for you or for somebody that you know and care about that could be helpful for them. So the Tibetan Cranial originally came out of Tibet, in the Tibetan Highlands area, and as far as we know, it's been dated about 3,000 years ago, and that was discovered through when my teacher was looking at the Tibetan public records in Dharamsala. So that's as far as we know. The monastery that it was performed at in Tibet was during the Chinese invasion. There was only 3 monks who escaped during that time, and as far as my teacher had found, there was only one remaining living teacher at that time that she found her teacher, Lama Dorji. And Lama Dorji is a pretty common name within that area, and it's common within Eastern traditions to not attach names to works of God, and they prefer to remain anonymous. So using a name such as Lama Dorji is kind of a statement within that purity of that tradition. So she looked for many years after she trained with him, after finding out that he had passed away. And she, as far as we know, he was the last remaining living teacher when she trained with him. And now that he had passed away in the 1980s, she discovered that she may be the only one left to know this work on the planet. And after deep trying to deal with that reality and looking for many years throughout that entire region, going to different monasteries, inquiring and going through this process, then she went to different higher teachers within Nepal and in that region to ask guidance, what do I do if I'm the only one who knows of this work? What should we do? And it was advised to her to, out of the 3 suggestions, one Lama said that her teacher had died and the work dies with him. And the other teacher, other Lama said, well, she knows of the work, he gave it to her, and that's how it should be. She is the lineage carrier for this work. The third Lama said, you're no spring chicken, lady, you better get with it. So it took her, if you can imagine what that would be like for a white Western woman or any one of us to have that weight, that reality presented to you, and what would you do? And she, out of all the people I have known, carried this with profound grace and met challenges, and we can't pretend it was easy for her or for anyone near her during that time. But she plugged through, and she refined the work from everything that Lama Dorji had taught her, down to everything. In Eastern traditions, it's all done through oral tradition and very tactile, and in those higher tantric traditions, they do a lot of empowerment. So a lot of the teachings and a lot of the deeper understandings of healing arts gets through in more subtle esoteric ways, I guess you could say, in your more spiritual sense. So in some ways, we're remembering the work rather than learning something completely new. So she developed and refined and practiced, and the only thing that she had changed if in Tibetan Cranial is her teacher used a log as a bolster under the knees. We use regular bolsters now. And the other thing that she changed was he never washed his hands when working with people in the pallet, but we wash our hands after each session. So those are the two things that we have changed in our Western model. So and over time she started gathering some people to learn the work. And currently there are teachers available for us. There's a teacher in Texas, Austin, Texas, Filet, and we have a teacher, Devin Parker, as well as in Colorado. And we have Neil and Janice, who reside in New Mexico, and we have Donna, who resides in Washington State. So we are trying our best in our greatest hearts to keep refining the work in our own lives and trying to keep this work in integrity, the highest integrity, and being able to present this and carry this forward for future generations. So if anyone is interested in helping us preserve this work and learning this work, or helping build our association in a way that can help grow and stand for generations, then you can contact our association at tibetancranial.org. And I suggest looking on that particular website. You'll get to learn all about its history in greater detail, and you will get to learn who all the apprentices are, all the practitioners. We are global now. We do have practitioner in Japan, and we have many in Europe. So we are growing in that way too. You'll get to learn what to expect during a session, how to prepare for, and what to prepare for, and some things to expect afterwards. So that's just some of the basics of where it came from. It is it's a 3,000-year-old healing therapy. So during that time, it was actually 500 years before Buddha was born. So it must have came from the Bon tradition of Tibet, which is the indigenous culture of Tibet. And you can tell if you ever receive the work that it is very in tune and very in tune with our natural rhythms. And we use a wooden board with no comfort, because sometimes it helps to be in place with where we are to allow that truth to rise up for us, and then we're able to adapt and change. And that's basic communication that goes along with the body and the nervous system. So there's a lot more that I can go into, and if you ever have any questions, you can ask me, or you can contact the association too. So how I came to know Tibetan Cranial was during a time where I had done 2.5 years of nursing school, and at that time I was a massage therapist already since 1999. And I joined the nursing field because I wanted to expand my level of care for people. And during that time, my father fell ill, and he was treated very badly within the hospital. And I would say neglect was completely a useful term. There was no eye contact with him. There was no looking at him and saying, how are you doing, Mr. Liverman? How are you doing? It was how he was doing was only information based on what's being reported through computer screens. And it wasn't how he was doing. the TV was on all the time. That was the only thing that our patients have to look at. We have, for a long time, we've had some of the crappiest food served in our hospitals, even through dietary restrictions and implementations. It's often not organic, local grown food. And all the things that we really need when we're sick and we're unhealthy and we're recovering from illness or surgeries, all the things that we need to heal properly are not within our Western medical system. I have to say, it is getting better, it is improving, but at that time, almost 10 years ago, I was pretty shocked at not only how he was being treated, but when you have a loved one on a hospital bed, you see things from completely different eyes, especially a male figure in your family who has, is a strong provider, who has fought in the war, who deserves the utmost dignity, respect, and humanity that was not there for him during his last days. And it turned out that, his skin was much darker. He had Native American ancestry, so when his liver began to fail, he had a yellow tone. And even though his bilirubins had gone way up in his blood tests, the nurses still looked at him and said, well, he's improving, but they didn't even turn the lights on for him to see the tone, and because they didn't know that he was originally already pretty dark, that you would have to look much closely to see the yellow tone. So they sent him home and blamed it on alcoholism. That is common in our veterans and our Native American population. So they sent him home and was chastising him about going through withdrawals and things like that. I was devastated. He just kind of was like, okay, well this is, I'm just going to listen to what the doctors say, and this is the path that I'm on. And it turned out he died the next day, and that was at home because he was sent home from the hospital. So it's a long story short, but I'm just letting you know how I came into Tibetan Cranial. His blood test did come back, and his liver was damaged from a statin medication to adjust his cholesterol levels in his body. Usually when a statin medication is given, you have 6 months where you should and need to get your liver enzymes checked to determine if that medication is damaging your liver. So he died within that 6-month time. And so I encourage, everyone who is taking medications to be your own advocate. And if you do notice changes in your body, to please speak up. So you can tell that that's pretty important, that we all take care of each other in that way. So and during that time, the doctor who prescribed this medication for him also performed the autopsy on my father, and it turned out that he had signed the cause of death as possible statin medication, so there really was no recourse for me or the family to do anything about negligence. So please be careful. Not every system that is in place in our country is truly able to really serve us. So I do see that's moving forward. I keep an eye out on hospitals that are doing innovative things, bringing together both Eastern and Western. I'm not a person who is this or that and only black and white types of medicine. I am a person who does this and that and more. There is so much more that we as humans need. We have so many basic needs that we don't account for, and it goes so much more beyond than just basic water, food, sunshine, shelter, community. I mean, we need spiritual health. We have emotional health. We have so many facets of our being that have needs. And sometimes one of the best ways I like to use that visualize that is to use the Lakota medicine wheel. It's a very simplified way to look at our wholeness as we are all of these things, and all of these things can get depleted. We can become drained in some areas, or we can have excess in some areas, and they all feed back into each other. So it's important to, take a step back, get back to our own rhythm, and look at, use a wider focus in addressing how our needs are and how our needs are going to be met. And ask questions. If you ever have questions that you're curious about, don't hesitate to email professionals in your local area or to Google things. I mean, it's not about trying to diagnose yourself, but sometimes if you feel curious about, I want to try doing art again, or I want to try learning an instrument again, or how do I cook to my level of being, whether it is your blood type or your Ayurvedic Pitta, Vata, Dosha type. There's so many different ways that we can feed and nurture ourselves on a very individual level. So, moving on, thank you for your patience, but I feel that the Tibetan Cranial video is probably one of the most important videos that I'll do for you, so I want to do it right. Tibetan Cranial has been known, it's not been studied in Western formats. However, it has been, all the things that we can say about it is very anecdotal. So, I'm not going to be pretending to replace your doctor. I'm not replacing your doctor or telling you not to go to your doctor. In fact, I encourage you to establish a deeper relationship with your physicians and to educate yourself on your body and to know all the landmarks of your body and to know how the body works so you can communicate better when there is something going on with you or for your loved ones. So some things that may help are obvious things like headache, migraine, TMJ work, TMJ problems, teeth alignment. It helps with autoimmune disorders, central nervous system disorders, immune system problems, or sometimes, like the autoimmune, we can have an allergy where it has to be regulated. So the work aims to create balance within the body and to attune to your original state. So it's not going to take away anything that is going to be continually to be helpful for you in some way. Some people come to the work with specific things that they want to address, and sometimes, those things are not within my power to change. Our role as practitioners is to create a sacred space and to create that opportunity and that support to allow that original wisdom within us to create those changes and to create that space and to allow the healing to flow through the body in its own way and to change and adapt in its own way. Some people say, okay, well, this is better, but I still have this knee pain that I originally sought you for. And sometimes we have to take into account too, as far as, well, maybe that knee pain is addressing stability in your life, and that knee pain is coming up for you to say, okay, it's not the knee pain, but I'm trying to generate these qualities within myself to move through some of those things. That's just an example. There's so many different ways to look at illness and pain in general within the body, that it is only up to the individual to find that meaning and to discover that. In the case of like a terminal illness, let's say the person is fulfilled their life and is going back into a different cycle of degeneration and a natural cycle of death and dying. Have we failed? Has healing failed to, stop that from happening? Absolutely not. It's a natural process that we all go through, that life goes through. And sometimes when someone is sick and ailing, it could be that the whole family has to gather around this person, and that whatever that illness is the gift that is the gift that which brings people together for that family. So we do not know what the end point of healing is for anybody, and it often is not about the individual person. So that's just my perspective. So it's just one way to look at some things. But with healing, I think it's a natural flow within every living thing. To me, it's the flow of love within all the channels of our body that gives us the complete fulfillment of our life. And often the flow of healing can get blocked in our bodies by belief structures, by fears, by doubts, because we tighten up, by traumas within our life, by not being nourished, there's so many levels that we have to, not every shoe is going to fit each person. So we all have to kind of bounce off each other as we're going through our healing journeys. But so with Tibetan Cranial, it is done by pulses, the traditional Tibetan cranial pulse readings. Those pulses come up through the cranials. We read the pulses about where your fingernail lies and the very sensitive bed of your finger. So that is where the pulses come up, and that's where we read them. They're about 220 to 240 pulses a second. And the only way that we can work with that is through staying in a mantra or in a prayer state. While we're working with people, our heart is connected to their crown chakra, so there is this flow going back and forth to the person and honoring that person. In a lot of Eastern cultures, and particularly Tibetan Cranial, the person that is on the table is perfect, is already divine, and there's nothing wrong with that person. That person is a manifestation of all enlightened activity, already omnipresent. So when someone comes with these ailments, we don't see it as it's something wrong. It could be just a door within a room that just needs to be open with light going through, or an instrument that needs to be fine-tuned, that isn't getting to the highest or the lowest methods of a tone. Rainbows. It could be like a rainbow. It's like a rainbow. Are you seeing only black and white, or could there be more spectrums of us? And how can we play with those elements within the body and bring in more of that true essence? Because sometimes we just essentially do get drained, and we need to get our cups filled back up. But it has to do with we are already perfect. It's like someone comes to you and they're missing a leg. Does that make them less of a person? Does that make them less of a human being because they're missing something? Absolutely not. So we don't look at people like, okay, this is broken, let's fix this, let's put this in. It's not like that. We see the person already perfect, and we are just, there to honor the person as the truest state of who they are. And the pulses come up, and it's not up to us to say, okay, this is how I want you to change. This is how I think you should be. It's absolutely not like that. It's the opposite way of looking at things. So I invite you to explore the work, to see how it absolutely works for you. And what a session looks like is, the person is fully clothed. You'll want to wear comfortable clothes, no belt loops, no metal. Metal interferes with the communication systems of the body. But the wood table, this is not my table, by the way. This would be a really small person. But the table allows the spine and the brain to allow that fluid to flow, and that's basically your communication system within the body. And the more that the body is able to feel where all those misalignments are, then the brain is like, oh, I didn't realize this was out, or this was out, or this was out. I'm so sorry. Let me fill this in. Let me deal with this. And now you have an opportunity away from maybe a stressful life situation. And sometimes our lives can be too tightly packed to even give ourselves the opportunity to heal. So often that's why we seek help, is because we need that permission, and we need someone to give us the opportunity to heal on levels that we have never known before. So when a person does come for Tibetan Cranial, it is good to remove like the metal earrings, the metal clasps, jewelry. If you have dental work, it's a part of you now, and we can work around that, like wedding rings. We don't ask you to remove your wedding ring, because that's just a part of you now. Caffeine does not work well with this work. It makes the pulses very buzzy, and it's hard to get a sound full reading, but it's not that we can't, it just makes it a little interference that way. So you can have your caffeine after your session. Alcohol, drugs, please don't. Please don't seek this work if you're having problems with these things. Seek the help that you need. This can help you once you get to the point of wanting to let those things go. But if you don't have any intention on changing those things, then this work can only go so far with you. But if you need help making or generating some quality of strength and willpower to help you move through some of these changes, then this work can help you in that way. The medication part of Tibetan Cranial. If you are already taking medications with your doctor, keep taking them. Don't miss your doses just to receive the work. Keep taking your medications. If you are taking something, an elective medication like a ibuprofen or a Aleve or some kind of medication you would not normally take every day, then wait till after your session to take that, because what it does, the work will balance you to your current medications. But if you're taking something that your body isn't going to be continuing to take, then it will balance you to that, and then once it's out of your system, you will feel a little bit unbalanced. That's all. So we don't work on women in their third trimester of pregnancy, just because that baby lays on that main artery in the stomach, and so being on a solid surface, that does not serve anybody. So we ask that you wait until after that you can have your Tibetan Cranial sessions. People who have an acute cold, stay home, get some rest, and when you're recovering from your cold and it's getting better, that's a good time to come for Tibetan Cranial. Afterwards, after your session, it is so important, and each and every one of us stress this so much, to walk after your session. With the cerebral spinal fluid flowing and being grounded within your feet, it helps to continually balance, letting those fluids penetrate throughout the body and give you some equilibrium and some space in between your healing rhythm and the life that you're leading before your session, because sometimes we can rush back into our lives and we don't realize that we've already changed, and we don't fit in some places. And sometimes we need that extra space after a healing session to say, okay, this is who I am, this is where I'm at, and this is how I want to move forward for my next life, my next, step forward in my life. So walking is very important. Keeping well hydrated, and of course, if you're taking diuretics, please speak with your doctor. But if you're a normal, healthy person, please keep hydrated. Sometimes as we open up the tissues of the body, the fluids will want to come into drier areas. and tighter areas, and so we're going to be using a lot more fluids and needing a lot more fluids after that. So that's really important. How many sessions should people have? That's entirely up to you. Sometimes, I mean, it happens, you know, I give space for everything to happen in one day. Why not, right? But sometimes that's not always the case because our body holds so much memory. So traditionally this work was done in 5 to 7 consecutive sessions over the course of 5 to 7 days, which helps work on those kosha levels. And then afterwards you can do like tune-ups, or like, okay, I'm starting to get another headache, or I feel I'm starting to tighten up in this area again, or I'm going through a change in my life and I can use some extra support in that way. Sometimes people have held on to things for a really long time and need maybe a slower entrance into the work, like 1 session 1 week, maybe 2 the next week, and a more gentle approach to that way. It's, you know, I think it's based on an individual's choice. Maybe after your first, I would give yourself 3 sessions, whether it's close together or kind of spread apart, to kind of get a feel for how it would, how it is working for you, and how you want to place it in your life, and how to arrange. Hey, can I leave the kids with the other side of the family for a week while I take a time to do this work without you know, always having to take care and refill my own cup for a little while, and try to arrange it in that way is probably the best solution. What do people experience after a session? That again depends. Sometimes there can be emotional stuff that comes up that's just ready to be let go of, that's been in there for a long time. I like to connect with a lot of the professionals in my local area, so if things do come up for you that you need additional support that's outside of my scope of practice, I try to have a varied amount of people who can help you, and we can work through and keep that healing moving forward in that way. Sometimes people get off the table and say, you know, I've been eating like crap for most of my life, and what I need right now is someone to help me with my nutrition levels. I'm like, I've got a person for you. I probably can give you my own advice about what I've done, but it's not going to be you know, someone who has you know, committed their life education in that way. So we try, you know, building those communities and bouncing off each other is really important part of healing work. So other things that you can experience is you may get a little sleepy after, and you just may want to sleep and reset your whole brain, and sometimes it just wants to go in and sleep and rest your nervous system for a little while. Other times you may have a lot more energy and want to get out and around people, and other times it's too much stimulation and wanting to go back in is better. So I suggest keeping, again, your schedule flexible, to where, you know, afterwards you're not setting all these plans for yourself, and you can say, oh, after my walk I think I'm going to go home and take a bath, or I'm going to call someone that I really care about, or I'm going to go play some golf, I'm going to do something fun, you know, all kinds of things. So try to keep your schedule flexible as you can after your sessions. How do you train to become a practitioner? First, you have to start as an apprentice. The training varies for apprentices. First, you have to get your pulses read by one of the teachers to determine if you're a good fit for the apprenticeship. It is a 2 to 4 to 5 year commitment. They do trainings twice a year, 5-day trainings, and they do 2 clinics a year, and then you do at least 108 free community service sessions a year so that you can practice and own those skills that are required. So if you have any questions about being an apprentice, you can contact the website Tibetan Cranial. TibetanCranial.org. So, we're always looking for new people to help spread the word, because this is going to take many generations to refurbish after some of the invasion. And after the invasion, the work is spreading. The work is spreading more around the planet. So we are very fortunate to have this work on the planet. So, one of the questions that a lot of people ask about Tibetan Cranial is, what is the difference between your Tibetan Cranial and cranial sacral work? And before I was able to answer, I don't know, because I never received cranial sacral work. But I did receive cranial sacral work recently. The difference is Tibetan Cranial is about 3,000 years old, and that's a huge difference in between the two. The other difference is that with Tibetan Cranial, we only work with the cranial pulses, with the head. Cranial sacral, I believe there's hold points all throughout the body and the sacrum, so that's a difference as well. The other difference is it's not anything that Tibetan Cranial is not something you learn or read about in a book or on charts, or can be contained within the period of time that Tibetan Cranial requires you to learn. So I would suggest trying both for yourself, because I'm just one person that can discover that difference for you. So anyway, for those of you who have never tried the work, I suggest that you try the work. And for those of you who have been with us for a long period of time, thank you so much for helping us continue to stay on the planet and helping support our apprentices and our practitioners in maintaining the work. So my name is Janelle Liverman. I am a practitioner. I just completed my 3rd advanced Tibetan Cranial training. I offer it locally to the Wilmington, North Carolina area. So I am open for business. I'm looking to help people who are in pain, whether it's brain injuries. I am open to working with other healthcare professionals so that we can really create strengthen our communities to the highest level. So I also work with the Omali Lewis, who is the Tibetan water mother emanation of Mamaki. She has worked with the Kutan Law in developing a world peace ceremony called the 4 Elemental Mother Ceremony. So it is helping balancing all of the elements within us that gets in the way of our own internal peace, which transcends peace in the world. So if you're interested in that, I offer those services, and that's free to the community. I have also been trained as level 2 healing trauma through indigenous wisdom through Omali, and I also do people walking, so I integrate medicine wheels, water blessings. I try to make healing fun in the way that Patch Adams has just excelled at. So I want healing to be not shamed on people, not to feel poorly about yourself, because there's so many things in life that we feel poorly about ourselves. We don't need our healing to be infiltrated with those terrible things about ourselves. So I want people to feel at home in nature, to connect to the cycles of nature, and to feel supported in nature, because sometimes we may not feel supported in our life. But nature is always there for us. It's our best friend, our cousin. We are essentially nature. So we have to reconnect with that part of ourselves. And I do other community events to help support Wilmington through the Burton Eaton Museum with Isla Speller. Hi Isla, thank you so much. And I met a nice doctor, Dr. Sherry, who works with neurofeedback, and she does EFT tapping that helps with autistic kids and people struggling with PTSD. And so many other things. So I'm really trying to create and build those relationships within our community to help provide people who are, if you're coming from out of state and you're wanting to help go to the beach for a little while and connect with water and connect, do some surfing therapy or some nature therapy. There's a lot of yoga practitioners there. There's all kinds of stuff going on in Wilmington right now. So there's so much for you. So if we can help design a very beautiful individual way of doing your healing when you come out to Wilmington, by all means contact me and we can get together some people to make it a really awesome trip for you. Same thing with Colorado. We know a lot of people in Colorado. So if you're coming out to Colorado and you need help reconnecting in nature, getting grounded in some good food, growing food, some acupuncture. There's so many things going on everywhere right now, not just in one place or another place. So we have a lot to look forward to. So I have to say, keep your chin up. And we are really strong people inside, and we're going to get through the challenges, but we will do it together. So I just want to say thank you for joining me with my Tibetan Cranial video. And thank you for nature to help me get over my shyness in presenting this video for you. So again, my name is Janelle Liverman, and I will put my contact info below the video.